Ngayong hapon everyone, welcome to another episode of On the Sunny Side. Today we are taking over this show's regular program to discuss one of the most pressing, critical, and polarizing issues in the country, political dynasties. I am Jebby from the Political Science and Economics Society, and this is Political Dynasties and Anti-Dynasty Policy Forum. It's been 39 years since the establishment of the 1987 Constitution. 39 years, yet Congress has still shown no meaningful progress in fulfilling one of the Constitution's most important command. The state shall prohibit political dynasties as may be provided by law. 39 years later, and we still have yet to define what is political dynasty, let alone prohibit it. With the ongoing corruption issues in our country, many analysts and commentators say this may be the most potent and may be the only time that we can put pressure on our political leaders to finally fulfill one of the key promises of our democracy 39 years ago. This afternoon, we will be joined by one of the most prominent political scientists in the country as we talk about political dynasties and the present measures on both houses of Congress that defines and that not necessarily prohibit them. But before that, we would like to acknowledge the participants from both Zoom and Facebook Live coming from the following institutions: Father Saturnino Orius University, Davao del Norte State College, National College of Science and Technology, National Donghua University, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Adamson University, National University Clark, Northeastern Mindanao State University, and Philippine Electronics and Communications Institute of Technology. To formally start this episode, let us hear the welcome remarks from the Political Science and Economics Area Coordinator, Ms. Hannah Ruth A. Bongot.
Yes, thank you so much, Jeb. Good afternoon to everyone joining us in this afternoon's forum on political dynasties and anti-dynasty policy, organized by the Political Science and Economic Society of Father Saturnino Orius University. This forum is an initiative in response to a pressing issue that continues to shape our political landscape: the persistence of political dynasties in the Philippines. It is a topic that remains highly relevant not only at the national level, but also across many local contexts, including parts of Mindanao and the Caraga region. While experiences may vary from one place to another, what remains clear is that political dynasties continue to influence how power is accessed, sustained, and exercised in our country. And this raises important questions that we cannot ignore. Questions such as, who gets the opportunity to lead? How open is our political system to new voices? And how do we ensure that representation is truly reflective of the people? This is why conversations on political or anti-political dynasty policies are so important today, because this is not just about legal provisions, but about the kind of democracy we are shaping as a nation. In FSUU, we are reminded that we are called to be a community of men and women committed to pursue the work of Christ for the wholeness of society. And that wholeness is also reflected in how justice, participation, and leadership are practiced in our political life. In this light, engaging in conversations on political dynasties become part of that mission, because working toward a more inclusive and just political system is also working toward the wholeness of society. This afternoon, kami sa Political Science and Economic Societies really hope o gusto gyud mi makatabang that through this forum, we can help spread the conversation on the anti-political dynasty law, not just within the university, but also in our communities. At the end of the day, what we really hope for is a democracy that is more inclusive, more participatory, and more responsive to the needs of the people, not only in theory, but also in practice. And conversation like this is an important step in that direction. Once again, welcome to this afternoon's forum, and may this forum not only deepen our understanding, but also inspire us to take part in building a more just and inclusive democracy. Thank you, ug maayong hapon sa atong tanan.
Ayan, salamat kaayo, Miss Hannah. Political dynasties in one shape or form have been present in our country since the colonial era. Now, we will dive deep into the concept of political dynasty and its implications to our democracy and society. And who else would better give us this deep dive than someone who have for decades had experience in research and advocacy on our democracy and politics. He's a Filipino political scientist and academic known for his expertise in comparative politics, democratic governance, elections, and political parties in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. He has written extensively on democratization, electoral reforms, and political dynasties. He's the former dean of the College of Liberal Arts at De La Salle University, and just recently, he, together with some of the prominent good governance personalities in the country, convened the Anti-Dynasty Network, a coalition which advocates for the passage of a genuine anti-dynasty bill. Let us welcome the GOAT of political science in the Philippines, the one and only Professor Julio Tihanki. Good afternoon, Professor July.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for that very nice and very kind introduction. No? Wow, goat, sobra naman. But thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone, no? Not only from the organizers, and I'd like to thank the organizers of this afternoon's Zoom online, no? The Father Saturnino Urios University, particularly the Political Science and Economic Society. Maraming salamat, no? It's been decades since, I think a decade since I last went to Butuan and visited Urios University, and I remember giving a talk at your university. I'd like to welcome also all the other students who are in the room and faculty members from different universities, not only in Caraga, in Mindanao, and even here in Imperial Manila. So, so yes, thank you. And so many things to discuss, so many things have been happening in our country and outside, no? Sobra. Now is the time really it's a, well, it's not a great time for everyone, but it's a great time to study political science, don't you think, no? Now more than ever, I think we can see the relevance of our discipline in the not only in political science but in social science in general. So for this afternoon, I will discuss with you something that I've been talking about, no, for 25 years already. So I've been studying this topic for more than 2 decades already. This has been the topic of my doctoral dissertation in 2000. And right now, no, we are right in the middle of a critical juncture, a critical moment in which we might see, no, the finally after 29 years, 39 years, no, after 39 years, we will see finally an anti-political dynasty law. But what kind? I will discuss with you. So let me share my screen. Okay. Okay. So for this afternoon, I'm going to discuss the relationship of democracy and dynasties, and would like to deconstruct the narrative of bloodline politics. Just last month, we have commemorated the 40th anniversary of the EDSA, People Power Revolution, no? A revolution that restored, no, democracy in our country. And I was part of that generation who grew up, no, under the shadows of dictatorship, and I was part of that generation that participated in the struggle against dictatorship. And I, together with the others from my generation, helped restore democracy in 1986. Democracy, no matter how flawed, which allows us still to exercise freedom and at least a modicum of human rights. No, so the Philippines takes pride in being one of the oldest, if not the oldest, democracies in the region, and that's true. But in substance, we are actually an oligarchy, no? And case in point, as of the midterm elections, and if we look at the 20th Congress, particularly the House of Representatives, 81% of the composition of the present House, belongs to a what we call the political dynasty. And time again, I have stated that in the Philippines, clans and not parties have been the building block of politics. No? So at the heart of this issue is the clan or the political family. No? And as most of us know, if we study our political science literature, in the absence of strong institutions, the family usually fills the vacuum. No? So if you look at it from a socio-cultural perspective, the family plays an important role. But it is a double-edged sword. No? In most cases, the family fills in the lack of strong institutions, but at the same time, it transforms society into a personalistic one, no? That everything revolves around familial connection. So if you look at it from an institutionalist perspective, and as a political scientist, I consider myself an institutionalist more than a socio-culturalist or structuralist. Politics is not broken because dynasties are strong. Dynasties are strong because our politics is broken. And if you look at it from the lens of political economy, what we are seeing is the intersection of political families and our political economy through what is known as rent seeking. The practice of treating public office as a private family asset to be bequeathed rather than a public trust. But political dynasties, or what we call political clans, are like organisms. No? Dynasties are not invincible. They emerge, they dominate, they decline and disappear. In 2019, I conducted a study as a visiting fellow at the Australian National University. And I tracked the life cycle of political dynasties, the rise and fall of dynasties in the Philippines. And after looking at the roster of members of political dynasties in our history, I classified them into four. No? My typology consists of, first, dynasties that have existed more than 50 years, some stretching back to even a century or 100 years. No? They've been active in our politics for since the time of the colonial and post-war historical periods. No? And if you look at the composition of the so-called durable clans, no, there are at that time, during in 2019, there were 35% of these kinds of clans. No? And one of the prominent example is one political clan in northern Luzon, in La Union, no? The Ortegas. No? The Ortegas have been in power since the American colonial period continuously, no? Since the American colonial period up to the present, and they've never been out of power. So more than a century, they've been entrenched in power, such that even among themselves, no, they compete with one another and they fight for the elected position in La Union. Now, there are clans that have emerged during the time of the Marcos dictatorship, the first Marcos Sr., no, and during the time of martial law and the authoritarian period. And another part of dynasties emerged immediately after the fall of Marcos or during the post-EDSA period. So this is now what we call the dominant political clans, and there are 39% of them. So if you include the durable and the dominant, they consist largely the bulk of political dynasties in our country. Now there are clans that sometimes they lose, no, they or sometimes they are arrested, or sometimes they're out of power or knocked out of the political arena for one reason or another, but they maintain the means to make a comeback, no? They retain the machinery and the resources, no? And I call these dynasties dormant, no? Like for example, when the Marcoses were ousted, no, they were exiled, no, for a short while, but they managed to come back and rebuild, no, their political capital and political base from the local level, no, from Leyte and from Ilocos, all the way back to the national. And now, 40 years after the ouster of Marcos Sr., lo and behold, our president is a Marcos. So there you go, no? Then another example, of course, was for a brief moment, no, during the Duterte years, there were no Aquinos, no, elected in higher office, no, in the country until the recent return to the Senate of Bam Aquino in the recently concluded 2025 election. So they may come and go. But there are other dynasties that totally disappear, no, for one reason and another. No, one good example is the prominent Laurel clan from Batangas. No, of course, you are all familiar with President Jose P. Laurel, the president of the Philippines during the Japanese occupation, and then there was Vice President Salvador Doy Laurel, there was Speaker Jose Laurel, there were other Laurels active in politics until the 1990s. No, now there are no Laurels, no, in elective position. No, the Laurels have transitioned from being a political family to a family of diplomats. So they've been active in foreign service. There have been one or two or even three ambassadors from the family, and now they concentrate in education, being the owner of the Lyceum University of the Philippines. No, so they're like adaptive organisms. No, they come and go, they grow, and one of the unfulfilled promises, no, of the EDSA revolution. You see, one of the legacies of EDSA was the 1987 Constitution, which is supposed to be the antidote to the dictatorship, no, to the dictatorial Constitution of Marcos. And it was supposed to institutionalize the gains of people power and democracy, the return of democracy. And one of the promises was the mandate in Article 2, Section 26 of the 1987 Constitution. Because even back then, they were already cognizant of the long-term negative impact of the dominance and the monopoly of political families in the country. So, it was enshrined in Article 2, Section 26. The state shall guarantee equal access to opportunities for public service and prohibit political dynasties as may be defined by law. No, there lies the problem. No, when they put that last set of words as may be defined by law, because when this was introduced in the 1986 Constitutional Commission that drafted the 1987 Constitution, there was a disagreement, no, and there was even a deadlock in the definition of what constitutes a political dynasty. According to Commissioner Christian Monsod, no, originally he was against the anti-dynasty provision. He was anti-dynasty, no? And then there was a break in the discussion and the deliberation, and he was convinced to vote for the anti-dynasty provision. So this provision, no, entered our constitution by a vote of 1817, just by a margin of 1. So because of this confusion, they couldn't define, no, what a political dynasties or what political dynasties are. So they left it to Congress to define political dynasty, no? So, according to Commissioner Monsod, no, on hindsight, no, reflecting on what happened before, they had uh, they uh, they underestimated, no, the greed of the politicians, and they overestimated the spirit of the EDSA revolution. They thought that after EDSA, no, our politics would mature, no, but of course that didn't happen because they asked Congress to define what political dynasty is. And as we all know, Congress is a house of dynasties. No, so I always kid and I always joke that asking Congress to define political dynasties is like asking Dracula to guard the blood bank. No, bantay sa lakay. No, they will not legislate themselves out of power. No, so the paradox is that the Constitution guarantees equal access. Yet, because of legislative action for 39 years, no, there's been no definition. And what happened? They the number and the percentage of dynasties erupted and grew. No, so uh, if we look at the current composition of Congress, no, 81%, no, belong to political dynasties, no, and that leaves us with just 19% non-dynastic, no, and then in the Senate, no, we can even call at the rate the Senate is composed right now, we can call the Senate the kapatid network, no, puro magkakapatid sila doon, no, so 83% of the Senate seats are held by dynasties, no? So actually, a fourth of the Senate is composed of siblings, no? There are four pairs of siblings right now, no, in the Senate. Then even the party list, which was supposed to be a social justice provision meant for the marginalized and the underrepresented to enter the halls of Congress, even the party list system has been hijacked and appropriated by dynasties and contractors, no, and showbiz celebrities, no. At the local level, 80% are our provincial governors are from fat dynasties, and 53% of our mayors are from dynasties. So this is what illustrates, no, Robert Mitchell's iron law of oligarchy. Now, I first studied dynasties for my doctoral dissertation in 2000, no? And during that time, my case study was the first batch of young dynasts who entered the 11th Congress, and that was the time when the term limit provision of our 1987 Constitution took effect. No, so what happened was that in 1987, no, the 1987 Constitution imposed a three-term limit uh, at the local level, no, and then two-term limit for national offices, except for the president, and for the president a one-term limit, no, of 6 years. Now, because there was term limits and there was an absence of an anti-dynasty law, because according to the Constitution, there should be a law. And the Supreme Court also decided later on that the anti-dynasty provision of our Constitution was not self-executing. It needed a legislation. So what happened was that upon reaching term limits, no, either the father or the mother or the uncle or the grandfather, no, decided to pass on their seats to the next of kin, no? And since there were other opportunities, other positions that were open for them, and since they had the resource, they had the machinery, they had the name recall, they started running all at the same time. And that was the beginning of what we now call the fat dynasties, no? So, and that was the beginning of our problem, no? So, how do we assess, no? How do we untangle this problem, no? We look at four levers of regulation, no? The first is who no, who is related, no, the relationship, no, and oftentimes you will hear consanguinity, affinity, degree of relations. Later on, I'll explain that to you. Second, when does a ban apply if ever we do have a ban? No, the timing. Is it simultaneous? No, uh, this is what we call the fat dynasty. Sabay-sabay, simultaneous. Or is it successive, sunod-sunod? This is the traditional version of political dynasties in the country, no? Yung it's like a thin dynasty dahil sunod-sunod lang, no? So after in the past, no, during the post-war period, you have political families, but since there were no term limits, no, they keep getting elected over and over again until because of old age they retire or they pass away. Then that's the only time when the seat is passed on to the next generation. But just like what I said, because of the unintended consequences of the 1987 Constitution, now we have simultaneous, sabay-sabay. And then, which position? Which seats are restricted, no? National, local, or both, no? And then this is the most important part, and this will have an impact on the controversial decision of the House yesterday with regard to the anti-political dynasty bill, no? The jurisdiction. Where does the ban apply, no? This is what we call cross jurisdiction or cross constituency. Again, later on I will explain that to you. Now, in terms of legal degrees of consanguinity and affinity, consanguinity is according to blood. Affinity is according to marriage, mga in-laws, no? So, the first degree begins with you. First degree is your parents, your children, no? And then, second degree is your siblings and your grandparents, no? Third degree is your uncle, aunts, or your nephew, or niece, or great grandparents, no? And of course, the in-laws, no? Also, part of the first degree is if you are married, no? Your spouse, no, is part of the first degree. The fourth degree is your cousins, no? And your great grandparents, no? So that is the degree of consanguinity and affinity. For those who are pushing for a genuine anti-political dynasty law, no? Of course, the maximum demand is up to the fourth degree, no? But there are many issues regarding that, no? Some of the issues are in terms of practicability, applicability, no? And then some of the issues are actually personal, no? Because not everyone can control their cousins, or not everyone are in good terms with their cousins or their other relatives, no, and so on and so forth. So the minimum demand of those who are pushing for a political dynasty ban is the second degree. And even some of the political dynasties, no, agree up to the second degree, no? So you have the maximum demand and the minimum demand, no? Next, in terms of the timing, no? So I've already explained, no? You have the thin dynasty, the sequential, successive, no? Sunod-sunod. Then you have the fat dynasty. This is not a body shaming, no? I beg your indulgence. So this is not body shaming, but this is a health metaphor, no? Because if if you have fat dynasties, it is bad for the health of our democracy, no? It's like the cholesterol clogging the pathway, the arteries of power, no? So fat dynasty is simultaneous, sabay-sabay. And if you have more than 5 members of your family running, no? Now we have what is called obese dynasties, no? There are some families that have 32 members, no? in office, no? Ginawa na talagang negosyo, no? Ang politika, no? Next, and this is the most important part, no? When, where, no, and up to what extent, what position, no, should be banned, no? So you have geography and hierarchy, no? National or local, no? Uh, National local is now known as tall dynasties, no? It extends all the way to the top, all the way to the grassroots, no? So an example of hierarchical jurisdiction that is vertical is, you have the father as a congressman, and then the wife as governor, and then the son as a barangay captain, no? That's an example. Then you have the territorial jurisdiction, no? In which you have a governor of one province, but they go to the other town or city or the other province, no, in order to expand, no, their power, no. These are the horizontal dynasties, no. So, for example, should a senator be banned from having a relative who is a mayor in their home province, no? Some of the bills say yes, no, like one of the bills of Senator Robin Hood Padilla from the same LGU. If a senator has a relative in one local government unit, no, bawal, no, isa lang ang dapat, no. But for Senator Kiko Pangilinan, everyone, the whole country, basta if you have a national and then you have a local, isa lang sa inyo tatakbo, no. So it depends really, no. Now, as I've said, no, that is actually one of the loopholes. And this is something that we really have to be vigilant about and to actually monitor. Because right now, no, in the Senate, no, there were nine bills introduced in the Senate, of course, having different features, but it has been consolidated into Senate Bill 1901 just recently under the Committee of headed by Senator Risa Hontiveros, no, and that's the Senate Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation, and they came out with a consolidated bill, no, that tries to be as practicable and as negotiable in terms of compromising, no, with the other senators, the other dynasties, and pushing for the essence of a genuine anti-political dynasty law. So Senator Risa Ontiveros already, no, succeeded in coming out with a committee report, which is now being deliberated at the plenary. Now, yesterday, the House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, no, headed by Representative Congressman Zia Alonto Adjong, himself a member of one of the largest political dynasties in Mindanao, no, in Barm, in Lanao, no, del Sur. So, which is strange, no? They had 25 bills of different variety, no, all types of measures, and yet they came out with the decision to consolidate and set aside the 24 and adopt one bill that has been introduced by Speaker Bo GD and Majority Floor Leader Sandro Marcos. And that bill happens to be the weakest and the most watered down of all. And the manner by which they approved it yesterday, I was there. I attended practically all the committee hearings in the Senate and in the House. And I was so disgusted at what I saw yesterday. If you visit my Facebook, you'll see, no, how I expressed my disgust over how they railroaded. It was a legislative sleight of hand, and they tried to pass a substitute bill, which will be the basis for their debate in the plenary, and most likely would be the bill that they would approve coming into the bicameral. No? So you have here now a Senate version that tries to be as genuine as it can be, and then you have a House version that tries to legalize and legitimize and tries to get away with more dynasties in the country, no? And what is at the heart of the problem? The heart of the problem is in the House version, they maintain the cross-cutting, they maintain the ability of political dynasty to have vertical expansion, geographical expansion, and even horizontal expansion. So in effect, wala naman talagang ban, no? And later on, I'll explain that some more. Now, what is the cause of the monopoly? No, sasabihin nyo, Doc July, it's a democracy naman. It's the right of the dynasties to run, di ba? Well, there have been so many studies, no, done by academics, not just me, but others, even economists, who have studied and came to the conclusion that there is a high poverty correlation. The poorest provinces, 43 to 67%, of which have high poverty incidence, no, often have the highest concentration of fat dynasties, no, and sadly, most of these are situated in Mindanao, no. So you would say, but Doc July, uh, according to my statistics professor, correlation is not causation. True, no? Because correlation is a test of bivariate, no? Two variables, no? Bivariate relationship. But at the same time, no? Correlation is a test of relationship. And more often than not, no? The relationship between the presence of fat dynasties and high poverty incidence measured through HDI, Human Development Index, is high, no? And you cannot ignore that relationship, no? So there is a relationship. Of course, there are other factors to consider why dynasties exist, but one thing's for sure, there is a high correlation or high relationship between the two. And as a result, no, you have checks and balances failure, no? And this is a question of accountability, no? Right now, no, we all witness and we have experienced and we were shocked and angered by the greatest corruption scandal that happened in our country when the flood control mess was exposed last year, no? And that is the cause, no, of the failure of checks and balances because of political monopoly and the concentration of power in the hands of political families, no? And as a result, it also puts a high barrier for entry for non-dynasties, no? Because of the high campaign costs, no, the dynastic machinery, it's impossible, no? The non-dynastic talent, your generation, there are many bright and uh, talented, no, young people from different parts of the country, especially in Mindanao, especially in the Visayas, no, who would love to do your part, no, to be part of nation building, and you have great plans for the country, but you cannot serve because you cannot participate, because you cannot run for public office, because it is costly, and if you do not have the family name, it's impossible for you to win, no? So the future is just controlled by handful, no? And that results in state capture or the monopolization of public office and local economy, no? And again, I compare this. So if in economics, for example, in free market economy, if you have a monopoly or an oligopoly, it's a cartel, no? And if you have that situation, it's like a failure, a market failure, no? And the losers usually are the consumers, no? Because you do not have choice and you do not have a say in the price of commodities, no? The same can be said about dynasties. Dynasties are a form of political monopolies, no? It's an oligarchy, and it's a symptom of a political market failure. So in the same manner that in economics and business, you need to break the monopoly in order to have a level playing field and a functioning market, the same can be said about regulating dynasties through a ban. So in economics, you have the antitrust regulation. The same can be said about political dynasties. No. Now again, I would like to reiterate: the fatter the dynasty, the poorer the province. The prevalence of dynasty results in clusters of poverty. There is a correlation. And according to the former dean of the Ateneo School of Government, Dean Ron Mendoza, dynasties in the periphery are associated with lower human development and higher poverty. Now, again, I'd like to reiterate, this results in the erosion of checks and balances. Just imagine, no? During dinner time, no, at the family dining table, no, the congressman is the father, the governor is the mother, and the mayor is the son, and they're talking about budget. No, they talk about pork barrel, no? Diba? Who checks who, right? And then they have a relative who owns the business in the province, no? Have you noticed, no, in your provinces, in your localities, no? Usually those who control, who owns the franchise to Jollibee, Chowking, McDonald's, those who own gasoline stations are usually related to political dynasties, no? So when the regulator is related to the regulated, accountability vanishes. Who checks whom, right? And we're surprised that there's a lot of corruption going on. Of course not, because that is the reason why they exist, no? Now it's a vicious cycle, no? The reason why we have this, we have weak political parties. We do not have strong political parties, no? We have, as of last count, more than 300 political parties, and yet our country is still in deep mess. Why? Because our parties are just vehicles for convenience. It's personality oriented, no? They are only active during election time and then they disappear, no? So they're weak. And parties are usually funded by and controlled by dynasties instead of bottom-up mass-based party based on platform programs and ideologies. We have weak political parties. So they are vehicles for personalities and not ideologies. And again, the barrier to entry, no, there is no meritocracy, unlike in other countries, no, unlike in Japan, no, in South Korea, no, in Vietnam, even, no, even in China, no, meritocracy, no, based on talent, not based on who you know, right? And then, of course, incumbency advantage, no, patronage, ayuda, no, and then name recall, no, epals, no, epals here and there, no, and of course, high cost of politics results in more corruption because they need kickbacks, no, from private business interests like the contractors, no. So again, politics is not broken because dynasties are strong. Dynasties are strong because politics is broken, according to economist Ramon Albert et al. No? So, as a result, you have the erosion of modern governance. There is breakdown of meritocracy. We lack innovation, and the worst of all is accountability crumbles. No. So it's not just about corruption, it's about the suffocation of new ideas and the brain drain of competent leaders. Because if you look at most of the next generation, they're not as good as their forebears, no? As their ancestors. No? Some are just there because they're there, right? No? Walang choice, no? Okay. Now, we need to break the cycle. According to the latest Pulse Asia survey, 54%, no, a small majority are supporting the ban on political dynasties. But a large percentage, close to 20%, 19%, are still undecided. No? Why? Because some are saying, there should be equal access, even if you're a member of the political family. It's unfair. But then again, the right to run and the right of suffrage is not an absolute right. No, it's still subject to regulation. That's the reason why we have the Commission on Election to oversee the regulation of suffrage, right? And as I've said, no, we need to regulate monopolies like dynasties, no, in order to level the playing field. Take note, the constitutional mandate speaks of access, no, to equal opportunities for public service, no, and we need to restore power to the people. So here is a scenario. If we pass a genuine anti-dynasty law, hopefully we declog the political pipeline. No? So just imagine if we knocked out, no, a large chunk of dynasties by 2028. It will open up space for non-dynasts, no, or other dynasties who might be talented to run for position, and competition is good. And hopefully there will emerge a set of new competent leaders who will pursue stronger policy-based parties that will come out with inclusive growth and poverty reduction. So hopefully, no, we break this dynastic trap. And uh, as was mentioned earlier, I am co-convener of the Anti-Dynasty Network, a multi-sectoral coalition, no, of academics, of professionals, of the youth and students, and most important of all, as part of the anti-dynasty networks, are members of political dynasties, no, who are anti-dynasty, no, and one of our lead convener is none other than Pasig Mayor Vico Soto, no, and other progressive minded dynasties, members of dynasties who are supporting our cause of banning, no, putting a ban on political dynasties, no. So our four pillars, no, is that we would like to see a fourth degree ban, no, a ban up to the fourth degree. But we can talk about it. If it's practicable to pass the minimum second degree, let's talk about it. There should be no immediate succession. There should be no simultaneous, no, dynasties, no, and most important, there should be no overlapping jurisdiction. That the one that I was saying, no, and then the party list should also be included because it has been used as a backdoor for dynasties. So if ever we pass this anti-dynasty law, it's not the end all and be all to our objective of reforming our political system, of upgrading our governance. After we pass the anti-dynasty law, we need to uh, pass the long-delayed Political Party Development Act, which is a set of policy that will reform the way we do party politics, no? And part of the Political Party Development Act, similar to the anti-dynasty law, has been languishing in Congress for more than 20 years. It was introduced in 2001, and it's more than it's as old as my doctoral dissertation, 25 years, no? So part of the Party Reform Act is the idea of subsidizing smaller parties representing the marginalized, no? And campaign finance reform is also part of that, and anti-party switching, no? Now, one successful reform legislation is the Sangguniang Kabataang reforms, no? And the SK law is the first law in the Philippines that has an anti-political dynasty provision up to the second degree, no? So now, if you compete in the SK, no, an entire political dynasty at the local level can be knocked out if they allow their junior, no, their bunsoy, to run for SK, no? So hindi na sila pwede, no? So more young dynastic members of the youth, no, should participate in the SK, no? And once you get elected, no, you try to train yourself and improve your skills, no, in governance, no. Huwag lang kayo magpa-basketball at magpa-beauty contest, no. Pero talagang mag-isip kayo ng mga policies at the grassroots level, then hopefully you can run for barangay captain, then later on councilors, board members, and even vice mayor and mayor. No, so uh, the SK reform has prevented SK, no, from being the kindergarten for dynasties. No, so we need strong parties to replace strong families. No, okay. So now, just like what I said, no, uh, the Senate already released, no, what is known as the Senate Bill number 901, no. Okay, so uh, and then yesterday the House bill that substituted 24 other House bills in the House, no, but it still does not have a number, no, so we call it the substitute House bill. If we compare the features of both, and I say the Senate version is far superior than that of the House version, no, it's a perfect contrast because the House is really the house of clans, the house of dynasties. So that is the breeding ground of dynasties. And if we look at the features of the two, no, uh, 1901 has a strict ban on immediate succession. No, the House bill does not have. No, uh, the Senate version has an integrated national and local scope, meaning to say, uh, the national at the national level, dynasties are more or less banned, no? So wala nang magkakapatid sa Senado, no? Pag may presidenteng nakaupo, bawal yung anak niya or kamag-anak niya up to the second degree sa Senado or even sa House, no? So maayos 'yon, no? And then sa local, whether you are district, whether you're provincial, whether you're municipal, whether you're city, bawal. Bawal ang succession, bawal ang simultaneous. So it's really more or less the only thing that can be said about the Senate bill, it's second degree. It's not up to the fourth degree. On the other hand, no, you have uh, uh, the House version. In the House version, budol, no? Bakit, no? According to them, they're quiet on succession. So pwedeng mag-succeed, no? Yung sunod-sunod, no? And then ang ginawa nila, they separated the levels of government to national, House of Representative, provincial, under provincial governor, vice governor, board member, then House, no? And then the local, municipal, and city mayor, vice mayor, councilor, no? And then barangay. According to their version, no two or more members of the same family can run at each level. Pero, you can run at each level. So, ibig sabihin, bawal kayo per government level, pero lahat kayo pwedeng tumakbo sa lahat ng level. So, ano yun? Di ba? So, in effect, you are actually legitimizing or legalizing, no, dynasties. It's not an anti-dynasty law, it's a pro-dynasty law. Kasi you can field one at the Senate, you can field one at the provincial governor. So there are families that might end up with 6 or more, or even 12 members under this law. So it defeats the purpose of having a dynasty. Another provision, sabi niya, no spouse or relatives up to the second degree can run in the same legislative district. Eh sa isang legislative district, isang congressman lang naman ang ini-elect at bihira ka naman makakita ng magkamag-anak na naglalaban sa isang posisyon ng Congress. Usually, magkahiwalay na distrito. So, it's nothing, no? It says nothing, it bans nothing, right? So, it's really budol, no? Itong house talagang binubudol tayo, no? So, that's the problem. So, what is to be done and what are the emerging scenarios right now, no? Because no less than BBM, no, was the one who declared that this is a priority. He wants to see an anti-dynasty law passed. But it's the same thing he promised. He promised that the culprits in the flood control mess would be arrested by Christmas. Wala, nga. Then he promised the Independent Commission for Infrastructure law would be passed by Congress. Wala, nga. Ngayon yung anti-dynasty, wala pa rin. So, ang BBM, ibig sabihin, budol-budol Marcos, no? BBM. So, ano na, no? So, anong mga pwedeng mangyari, no? So, one is, and this is what I gathered yesterday, isa pang possibility, patutulugin na naman nila, iiwanan nila yung hanggang plenary na lang, hindi na tatalakayan. Then they'll move on to the next topic, which is the party list reform. Tapos wala, magkakalimutan na naman tayo sa pagpasa ng batas. So that is one possibility, no? Another one, kung pumasa man, no, yung mga leagues of local authorities would challenge it to Supreme Court. At pag nagdating na naman tayo sa Supreme Court, ala na naman. Currently, there are 4 petitions, no, in the Supreme Court, and it's being heard by the Supreme Court. And what might happen is the Supreme Court itself would be the one to define. Pero nakita natin yung epekto nun sa impeachment tsaka sa previous interpretation ng party list, no, lalong gumugulo yung usapan. Ano ang pwede natin gawin? No? Our group, the Anti-Dynasty Network, and other civil society organizations across the country is now preparing for the one big push that the people will be the one to pass a genuine anti-political dynasty law through people's initiative, no? Which is a democratic part of our constitution. The people's initiative is not about cha-cha, no? Although in the past, politicians have tried to use it to push for constitutional change. But we can also use it as a people to push for a genuine anti-political dynasty law. Under the Constitution, the People's Initiative consists of collecting signatures equivalent to 12% of the total voting population of the entire country, with 3% for every legislative district. If you're interested, if you want to see this through, join us. No? Join us in this great crusade to push for good governance and finally break the dynastic trap. No? And but of course, we'll have to wait, no, because the version of the Senate, no, is reasonable. We'll see in the BICAM what final version of the law will pass. And if it's not as good as we want it to be, then we move and collect signatures for our people's initiative. Okay? Okay. So, okay. Now, I would like to flash the screen. If you're interested in joining our Anti-Dynasty Network, please scan the QR code and give me a few seconds because I need to address something. Okay? Sige. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for that deep dive, Professor July. So we really learned a lot about political dynasties and how they impact Philippine democracy and our society. So while waiting for Professor July, we would like to thank again our viewers for their continued participation in today's forum. We invite everyone to scan the presented QR code in order to join the Anti-Dynasty Network. Ayan. So once again, we would like to thank the participating colleges that joined us in this forum. We have Father Saturnino Orius University. We have Davao del Norte State College, National College of Science and Technology, National Donghua University, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Adamson University, National University Clark, Northeastern Mindanao State University, and the Philippine Electronics and Communication Institute of Technology. Thank you so much for participating both in our Zoom and FB Live. Okay. Yes, so ang dami nating na learn from Professor July, no, with his presentation, not just with the concepts on political dynasty and his studies related to political dynasty and Philippine democracy, but also the current situation right now of the anti-political dynasty bill as discussed by Professor July. Just yesterday, the House of Representatives consolidated the measures related to banning or prohibiting the political dynasty. And unfortunately talaga, because among all those that was consolidated, the bill that was proposed by the current Speaker Faustino D, and also the President's son, Sandro Marcos, the watered down, the term of Professor July was the watered down bill, was used as a working draft of the consolidated bill. That's why yesterday also, Professor July discussed that he was disappointed during the hearing. It's also the time that Representative Erice of the Liberal Party withdrew his bill and his support to the consolidated measure. Kasi, yun nga, it's watered down. It does not genuinely prohibit the political dynasty. And just this morning, the Makabayan Black as well as Representative Laila De Lima of ML Partless also withdrew their support. So right now, Professor July is back. Hello po, Prof. Ayan, thank you so much. Sige pa, you may continue na po, Prof.
Okay, I think we can now take questions, no, from the Zoom room.
Oh, okay, sige. So, right now, we are opening the floor for our open forum. Our participants, both in Zoom and FB Live, may type or comment their questions so that our tech team will be able to flash them in our screen. As we wait, actually, we have a question that I have a question that I wanted to ask as you presented the pathways that we can make this work.
Yes.
The roads, the fourth road that the arrow that you presented is about the people's initiative, or
Yes.
the direct legislation of the people. And
Yes.
we've seen circulating, I've heard from Hiraya, an organization, that they're
Yes.
circulating a statement around people's initiative on the anti-political dynasty. How feasible is this route in having an anti-political dynasty law in our country, Prof?
Yes. Of course, if you look at the history of People's Initiative, it's been controversial because in the past it's been hijacked by the elites again, no, to pass a cha-cha, no, yung constitutional change, no, or charter change, no, and the Supreme Court has ruled and clarified, no, how people's initiative should be done, no, and back in mid 2010s, no, around 2013, there were already two attempts by Attorney Alex Lacson, no, and another group to initiate people's initiative for an anti-dynasty legislation. But after all these years, now I think, no, different sectors of society, particularly business, no, professional organizations, the youth, students, the universities, no, particularly members of Catholic universities, no, and the church itself is actually, the Catholic Church is interested in pursuing this path, no. So right now, no, it's more well planned and hopefully more organized, and hopefully, you know, what's happening now actually, you know, is we have some allies, no, reform-oriented and progressive allies inside Congress, but they're outnumbered, no. And as you can see, it would be foolish for us to think that the elites, the dynasties would readily give up their power. Of course not, no? Hindi mangyayari 'yon. As much as possible, the only reason why they agreed to open up this discussion after 39 years is because they're under siege, no? Because of the flood control mess, no? They need to clean up their house. And yet, they are now failing to heed the historic call for them to redeem themselves and clean up their mess. They're missing the historical moment, the critical juncture for them to become genuine representatives of the people. And yet, they choose to become representatives of their families, their clans, their dynasties, no? So that really is infuriating, nakakagalit, nakakagigil, because I've devoted a large part of my professional and academic life not only studying this, but actually going out there and advocating. Be it in the streets, be it inside the halls of Congress, be it inside the halls of Malacanang, I've been lobbying for this. And yet we're still here. And now they have a golden opportunity to do what's good for the country. They're not doing it. So, kaya nga, baka it's about time that we take it upon ourselves to really be part of this effort to push for a genuine anti-dynasty law.
Ayan, thank you, Professor July. So this is really an opportune time, or as you have described it, golden opportunity. I wanted to have a follow-up question on that. What is the for our viewers, what is the timeline of this golden opportunity, or the urgency
Yeah.
of passing this
Okay.
anti-political dynasty bill? Because right now the Senate already endorsed this to plenary, and the House already consolidated it. But make for our viewers, in order for them to feel how urgent this is,
Yeah.
what is our time frame of this golden opportunity, that by then, after that, we would have missed our golden chance to have passed this kind of law?
Yeah. Okay. So the timeline actually, based on what we've gathered, is that Malacanang really wants an anti-dynasty law, albeit a watered down version as it looks, no. So by March, no, we'll definitely see their version, no. But there's still hope, no, because of Senator Risa and the Senate, no, who would not want to see the House version, no, come to be, no. So they will try their best to push. And last night I was talking to Senator Kiko Pangilinan, even Senator J.B. Ejercito, a member of a dynasty, and yet he's pushing for anti-dynasty. He was my former student at La Salle as well. So they said that they will try their best during the BICAM. So by March, no, we would see, no, the conclusion to the legislative route, no. What the Anti-Dynasty Network is pushing for at this moment is that let the plenary of both House and Senate be televised, so that the people would know who among their representatives, who among their senators supported a genuine anti-political dynasty law. And then of course, by the time they have the BICAM should also be televised in the same way that they televise the budget, no, bicameral committee meeting. So that the people would know, let the people decide. And then by that time, no, I think, we'll see. But now the different organizations are already preparing for it. So by May or June, hopefully when is the barangay elections? Hopefully before the barangay elections, no, we come out with the signature so that we can include it in the barangay election, no? Because under the People's Initiative, once you have collected the signatures, COMELEC will verify. And then if we have the right number of signatures, we can now propose our own version of the law. And this will be put as a referendum to the people. So the referendum, do you agree with this version of the law, will now be piggyback with the barangay election. No? So that is our golden opportunity. Di ba? So para sabihin kasi nila, walang pera, walang budget for a referendum. Isabay natin sa barangay election para kasabay na siya, di ba? So isang botohan lang 'yun. Ilalagay mo lang sa balota, yes or no, di ba? So, 'yun, no? So that's the game plan.
Yes, that's the game plan, the timeline of our golden opportunity. Thank you for that, Prof. No, a question from one of our Facebook viewers, and if I may read from Ms. Mutia, she said, regarding the People's Initiative, what are ways in which the youth can convince the elder generation, especially I think this is majority? How can young people convince the elder generation to campaign or to vote for this People's Initiative?
Oh well, uh, the most well, I've been young once myself, so I know, no, during my time, no, I was part of, I my first political experience was when I campaigned for Cory Aquino during the snap presidential election of 1986, no. So the young, the youth, no, you have the energy, no, you have the enthusiasm, no, and you are driven, no. So definitely, youth power is important, especially now that our electoral demographics would show, no, that by 2025 and 2028 would show that the greater majority, at least more than half of the current voting population, belongs to the millennials, the so-called millennials, no, and Gen Z, no. So by 2028, you'd be the bulk, but right now you are already the majority. No? So you can use social media, you can use your personal connection with your own family or elders, and try to explain to them why this is needed. And I'm sure majority of the older generations, just like me, would understand.
And thank you. So to Ms. Mutia, use social media and the tools that we have right now in order to push for this reform. Ayan. So, another question from one of our viewers, um, if I may read, is there instances where political families deliberately groom successors from outside their family, and how effective is this in breaking the dynastic cycle? While this may appear to break the family's direct hold on power, doesn't necessarily practice effectively perpetuates the dynastic cycle in terms of still maintaining that family's influence, but this time other families are in power, but the influence is still there. So how does
Yeah.
this work po?
Well, even if that scenario happens, no, even if they will groom others, no, in fact, that is one of the concerns, no. Like for example, the illegitimate relationships or illegitimate children will be the ones, or that's the reason why we want until fourth degree, because now we will see more cousins running, no. They will push their cousins. So, but one good thing, once this law is in place, they cannot reproduce anymore, right? Especially if we ban succession, no. So there will always be a cut, no. There will be a break in their term of office, no. They cannot, after their, if you have term limits, then you have a genuine anti-dynasty law. They cannot extend, no. They cannot reproduce their own dynasties, just like what we have right now. And then the other key is, if we reform our political parties and make sure that they're strong, let all these family members join political parties, but before they can be candidates, there should be primaries within their own political parties, just like what we see in other countries. No, they have to fight tooth and nail, no? For the right to run inside the political party, you know, and that will break the monopoly, and that will break the expansive power of political families within our body politic. No? So the key really is institutionalization, no? Strengthening our institutions for accountability and democratic participation. And one key there is to strengthen internal party democracy so that the people who will be members of political parties will have the right to run and contest positions and candidacies against members of dynasties.
And thank you for that, Professor July. So at least there's a clear cut. We have to start from somewhere, right? Because
Yes,
that's
yes.
how we work this. There's also another question. I think this is connected to that question. A viewer asks, um, is the political dynasty the root cause of our weak democracy, or is it merely a symptom of a deeper failure to build a modern party system? Because as she states here that perhaps maybe um, the dynasty may no longer be there, but the system is the weak party system is still present. So how do you respond to
Yeah.
this, Professor July?
Yes, that's why uh, you know, dynasties are both the symptoms and the cause, no? And it's chicken and egg, no? You have to start somewhere, no? And that's the reason why it's it's like a cancer, no? You cannot cure cancer with just one medication, no? It's a spectrum of medication, no? So we need to start somewhere. We need to excise, no, the tumor, and the tumor right now is the dynastic phenomenon. And then we try to excise the tumor, and we try chemo or radiology. So, you know, sorry for the grim metaphor, but that is exactly where we are in terms of our politics, no? So really, it needs a spectrum of medication in order to cure our democracy.
And thank you. So, as Professor July stated, it's both a cause and an effect. No, but
Mm.
another question from one of our Zoom participants, and uh, here it is, Professor. Good afternoon, Prof. I am concerned that narratives are being pushed that genuine anti-dynasty provisions are just political vendetta or political maneuverings targeted towards certain clans. How can
Right.
one, especially young people, convince others uh, and those that are otherwise skeptical that advocating for anti-dynasty provisions is not a political vendetta but actually beneficial for them?
Okay. Yeah. Those of you who know me, who have read my studies and my publication, because it's required reading, I believe, and those of you who have seen me on YouTube, you just need to watch all my interviews, and time again, I say it's not about good or bad people. It's not about good or bad dynasties. It's not even about the personalities. It's about good and bad system. Because even if you have a good system, even if you have a bad system and good people, if you don't change the system, the structure, and the institution, you will still end up in a mess. No? So you need to fix the system, the structure, and the institutions to ensure, because with good institutions, even if you have bad leaders, the institution will ensure accountability, the rule of law, and good governance. No, but if you have a bad system with bad people, and that's what we have right now, we will forever be in dire straits. We will forever be in this mess. So we need to fix the system. It's the system. It's not the people. No, well, it's both actually. No, you need also good people to become good leaders to lead this reform drive. No, but if you don't fix the system, and hence you are not targeting any personality or family. I have some friends who are members of dynasties. I have students who are members of dynasties, But it's not about them. It's about the system. Let's fix the system.
So much, Prof. So the answer to that question is it's not about a clan, it's not a vendetta against a clan, but it's about changing the system and also, by extension, the people in the system. We have received an overwhelming number of questions. Of course, our Orients and other participants are really taking this opportunity, this once in a season opportunity to have the goat of Polsai here. But unfortunately, we can only
Yeah.
cater one last question before we proceed. So this is from Miss Tayag. She asks, "Good afternoon, Professor Julio. In your slide about the taxonomy of power, you have stated the thin, fat, and obese dynasties based on how families accumulate and distribute positions over time and across offices. At what point, she asks, a fat dynasty become institutionally dangerous enough to function like an obese dynasty in weakening checks and balances? Are there measurable thresholds that signal a shift from a competitive dominance to a system structure? Thank you po. Ayan.
Yeah. Yeah. Our last publication on dynasties and development, I was co-author with my colleagues from the Ateneo School of Government. You can find it on academia.edu. You can download it for free. And most of my publications are there. You just search for Julio Tihanki in the website academia.edu, and you can download everything that I've written all throughout my career. So, and I encourage you to read that because that's very important, because some sectors are saying, well, there are some provinces, there's some regions, there's some cities that have done well with good dynasties. But you'll be surprised, no? And we explain it thoroughly in that study, especially about fat dynasty and development, no? And then if you are interested in obese, no, and that when do we find that critical juncture in which fat becomes obese or fat becomes as dangerous as obese? Wala pang ganun study, no? We haven't started that study, but the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism has already collected data on that, no? And they've run a series, and I was one of those interviewed for that series of articles on the PCIJ, Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, in which we expounded on the notion of obese dynasty. So you can also check the PCIJ website. And of course, there are other investigative journalism sites like Rappler and PCIJ and Verifiles that you can search and see the history of dynasties in this country.
And thank you, Professor July. To
Thank
Ms.
you.
Dayag, no, these resources are available online, and even Father Saturnino Orios University also provides a variety of resources, no, knowledge that
Yes.
may be able to help answer your question. Of course, we're political science students. These are required, mandatory, or suggested readings in our courses. So unfortunately, again, that will be the last question. But to those who still have questions, feel free to comment them. So our tech team will collect them and hope to send them to Professor July if he has time. He could maybe answer. So at this point in our episode, we will be heading to our two political science students that will be sharing their insights, comments, and learning on Professor July's discussion. Please help me welcome Mr. Danford Jose Lopez and Miss Christine Buendia for their reaction.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank Professor Tianki for such a wonderful discussion, especially on how relevant and controversial the political dynasty issue here in the country. So, one of my main things that I found insightful or that stuck to me throughout the discussion was definitely professor's concept on the life cycle, definitely. Because if you look at our history, there is indeed a cycle, especially for political dynasties here in our country. Most of them live 30 plus to 50 years, as what Professor Tihanki said. And, and it shows that political dynasties here are deeply rooted, not just by belief, ideology, or by, by the people. It's deeply rooted of our nation itself. I think that's one of the main things that I analyzed throughout Professor Tihanki's discussion. It's a very good discussion, and I really want to thank Professor Tihanki. Especially, you are one of our goats. So it's an honor to listen to you, and it's an honor for us political science students to have you being with us today. And I'd also like to bring up the topic of rent seeking. Definitely, in our country, it's a very widespread practice, right? It's how most clans, parties, or whatever political coalition gain their power. They try to imbue their their hands on everything in our country, and it's quite sad. And I do agree with Prof. Tihanki's that statement that it's a systemic issue. It's a systemic failure if we have to look at it in a wider lens. And for us, political science students, for us citizens in our dear country, and for the broader political world, we really do have to do something about it. Because our country is ours, and we have all the right in the world to complain, to love, and to change, to make changes, right? And I'd like to leave off this discussion, or from Professor Tihanki's discussion, on how we should move forward. Everything that he discussed is very relevant. It's very important for us to learn, to observe, and to try to find a proper solution. Again, it all really starts from us. And what Professor Tihanki really endowed on me, especially how very passionate he was discussion. So, of course, we here, the reactors here, and Miss Binduya, are very, very excited, and we learned a lot from them. So, I think that's all from my part. I'd like to give the next part to Miss Binduya.
Hello. Good afternoon, Professor Jebby. Good afternoon, and to everyone who is listening sa live and Zoom. So, as mentioned by Dan, the discussion was very informative and at the very same time very controversial, considering the very rampant presence of political dynasty here in the Philippines, where in municipalities, provinces, cities, there are a lot of families that leads the community good. And the discussion truly opens our eyes on the gravity and the urgency of this matter in our society, where political dynasty is somehow challenging our democratic practices and democratic competition in our society. Because with political dynasty, it challenges new leaders in running and leading the community. And of course, based on what I have said earlier, it truly challenges democratic competition. And with this, it gives us the question or concern with regard to transparency, accountability, and equal opportunity in our government. And the talk really emphasized that political leadership should be rooted in public service. And I wanted to quote our discussion in Asian Political Thought, where Weatherby said that a government can be good, or leaders can give good results to the community if the leader have a political will and political capacity. And this is something that we need to really remind ourselves, no? Because being in the position does not merely about having political or like family names tied to it, but rather it is about our leaders' political capacity and political will to really govern the community and give a positive and good results that is very sustainable and can really help the people. And the discussion of Professor Tihanki is not only informative, it does not only inform us about political dynasty, rather it encourages us to take an action. And as political science students, and of course as members of the society, especially younger generations, we really need to take an action, and taking an action does not automatically mean confrontation. It can start with being informed, being responsible voters during elections, and knowing our rights, our democratic rights, and the democratic principles that the Philippines should upheld. So it is very informative, and somehow nai-enlighten talaga tayong lahat kung ano yung status ng Pilipinas with regard to political dynasty. And that is something that we need truly to remember, and need natin what do you call this?
Deeply endowed in ourselves.
Tama. Kasi if we, parang kung hindi natin siya nilalagay sa isip natin, hindi natin ma-realize how serious political dynasty is in our community. Right, Dan?
Yes. Very informative, very enlightening in
Yes.
general. This was a very good discussion, especially for not only PSS students, political science students, economics students, but through the participants as well, especially how we saw the amount of questions. I think that's all.
Ayan, thank you so much, Dan and Christine. As you can obviously see, Prof. July, no, we are very overwhelmed with your presence, even just on the screen. And hopefully, we could have you again in one of our future discussions moving forward, especially as political science students. Before we conclude, we would like to take this moment to recognize and honor the invaluable contribution of Professor July today. Your time, insights, and guidance have greatly enriched our program and inspired everyone present, especially in our Zoom and FB Live. As token of our appreciation, we would like to present to you this certificate. And let me read the citation. Father Saturnino Orius University, Arts and Sciences Program, Political Science and Economic Society, Certificate of Appreciation. This certificate is given to Professor Julio C. Tihanki in grateful acknowledgement of his contribution as a resource speaker in this episode of today's On the Sunny Side, presented this 4th of March 2026, signed Anna Marie Dorothy Yucatap, President, Political Science and Economics Society, Sarah L. III, Brobo LPT, Advisor, Political Science and Economics Society, Hannah Ruth Bungot Maps, Coordinator, Political Science and Economics, and Dr. Belinda Ato Candelario, Dean, Arts and Sciences Program. Thank you so much, Prof, for sharing your expertise and being an essential part of making this episode a success. And for also educating us so much on these things. We will surely cite your discussions in our reflection papers and submissions moving forward. Ayan. Today's discussion with Professor Tihanki has given us a clearer view of political dynasties and the urgent need for an anti-dynasty policy in our country. we've seen that change does not happen by chance. It is also evident in last week's celebration of the 40th commemoration of the EDSA People Power Revolution. It happens when informed citizens like you, me, and everybody else question, engage, and take action in shaping our democracy. To help us push for this initiative, please join the Anti-Dynasty network. I believe the QR code was shown later and it will be sent to you in the comment section below. Also, get involved in the Planned People's Initiative. And most importantly, convince yourself first that this is important and this is urgent because, as Professor said, our country right now do not just have bad systems but also bad people. Convince your families, your friends, your neighbors, even your jowa and mga nakaalitan nyo sa buhay. Lahat sila. Kasi sama-sama naman tayo sa iisang republika na ito. This is very important not just for the present generation but for the future generation. As discussed by Professor Tihanki, political dynasties have a proven negative effect in our society, and if we do not stop them now, we might no longer have another golden opportunity to have this law passed again. We are also inviting our viewers from Zoom and FB Live that we will be showing the QR code for our evaluation in today's episode of On the Sunny Side. Requesting everyone to please accomplish the form in order to evaluate the event. We will also be sending your certificates of participation once you have accomplished the form. So, as we end this forum, let us remember that every voice matters, every vote counts, and every effort to push for fairness makes a difference. And this is really the point of the political dynasty. It's really to democratize our political space because for so long it has been only the field of political clans and dynasties. Now is the time for other people to be involved in politics, and the only way to do that is to make sure that we pass this genuine, not the version of Speaker D and Sandro Marcos, Representative Sandro Marcos, but a genuine anti-political dynasty bill. Huwag nating kalimutan, ang tunay na pagbabago ay nagsisimula sa atin. Thank you so much to our speaker, Professor Julio Tehanki, and to all our participants. We'd also like to thank Father Saturnino Orius University, the University Administration, and the Arts and Sciences Program for their continued support to our efforts. And most importantly, the Political Science and Economic Society, led by its president, Ms. Anna Marie Dorothy Catap, for their effort in making this event a success. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye!